I was always a fan of exotic places. My first exotic destination was I lived for about 1.5 years in Istanbul, which for me was originally Asia, but then coming to this part of Asia, I realized it's a different Asia. I think I came also subconsciously, or I chose to choose Hong Kong because I was interested in Asian philosophy. I'd read in my life a lot of different philosophies and religious philosophies, and I was quite fascinated with Buddhism and also martial arts and the mystique of Asia. And I think that was a subconscious reason why I was looking forward to come here. It was very surprising for myself. You know, at that time Hong Kong had the old airport, Kai Tak in Kowloon, and it was very smelly. So when you arrived here and they opened the plane door, you could actually smell the pollution of the ocean, which was very polluted in this corner of the harbor. It was known for that. And I left Hong Kong on my first vacation, I think to Bangkok or somewhere close by, and I came back, and when I walked out of the plane and I smelled Hong Kong, I felt going home. And it really surprised me because I had lived in other places where I enjoyed it, but I never felt at home. An Asian or a Chinese society is very different to a modern Western society, European society. I think the West is very about individualism, and whereas in China one sees really the importance of the family first, and then the bigger family, and then the state. And I think you see this on all levels. You see it in government, that they think much more long-term in China than in Europe. But you also see it in families, how they live together. And they not only live together because they can't afford to live separately, but they live together out of respect. And basically, it is nicer to live together. We just lost this understanding in the West. And everybody in Europe wants to have their own flat from the age of 17. So this is one big difference, I think, between the West and China. But then there are many individual differences. Let's say in food, Western food is very different to Chinese food. Chinese food is much more in balance with what our body needs, and it used to be traditionally organized that with the meal one consumes not one dish like a Wiener Schnitzel or a steak, but one has a combination of a soup, a fish, maybe some meat, maybe some poultry, and definitely a lot of vegetables. And cooking is much lighter than in Europe, much healthier. And then of course we come to medicine. Chinese medicine is preventive medicine. The Chinese doctors traditionally was getting paid for looking after a family or after a person to keep them healthy, and for that he was paid. When somebody got ill, you stopped paying him. Hong Kong has a tradition coming from England of private members clubs, which used to be very British, gentlemen's club. But when I looked at this idea, I was more interested in the concept of salons. And the idea of salon is actually more focused around women. And I have a very interesting and strong wife, so that's why I thought I don't want to do a gentleman's club where people come and just drink whiskey and smoke cigars. It's a little bit boring. No, I would rather like to create a salon culture which also attracts women, but not only women, but it's a little bit more sensitive to the topics which we present there. So this was the idea why we created the club, and then a very good friend of ours, Sir David Tang, just had opened the China Club in Hong Kong, where he also revolutionized a little bit the club idea. I mean, he really presented a very interesting new club. On one side, it was the China Club, and he had all the top mainland politicians to be founding members, including all the big families in Hong Kong. So it was a very interesting platform. And he presented it very beautifully in terms of art and interior design, and also the social life which he created there. So when we opened a key club, this was our, I would say, our leading, not competition, but example, which we wanted to follow. But we wanted to create a more Western atmosphere than the China Club on purpose. I was prepared to be there most of the time. And that's why I always also looked at interesting partners so that I'm not alone, so that we are a little team to be sort of like the front person for our club or restaurant. When I married, my wife, after a very short time, gave me an ultimatum. She said, either you are able to delegate, or since I'm now your partner in life, I will force you to close it down and sell everything, and we do something different. And I really followed her advice and found a great CEO so that I could step back a little bit more. And from that point on, I learned to build my business not on my person, but to have a really good team. You could call them PR team, you could call them, people who were the face of the club together with us. And to have an internal family to which our guests like to come. Because people like to come to a place where you are recognized, where you feel at home. And that's very different to normal restaurants. And I think that's the success of any really famous restaurant or place. What did finally in '97 the handover mean? I was actually quite confident when it came to the handover. I choose not to be here for maybe sentimental reason. I rather wanted to be on a holiday and then come back when everything was done. So I spent the summer in Europe, and I only came back in October, I think. But China did a great job and really supported Hong Kong during the first 10, 20 years. And if I regret one thing, is that Hong Kong was not able the last 20 years to utilize this unique position it had to become a showcase for China, how to open up or how to merge Western and Asian systems, or how to merge a capitalist and a communist or a central system like China has today. Realistically, Hong Kong is China, was always China. I mean, we are in China. And I think we have to respect that China has, the last 100 years, a different history, and that for many reasons China will not embrace a Western democracy. But I think Hong Kong would have had the opportunity to find a middle way to introduce some more democratic principles into the Chinese way of government. But Hong Kong failed in this badly. We stagnated the last 20 years, and that's what I really regret most. I'm not pessimistic, but it is a shame that we lost all the pole position which we had at the handover. I'm in China twice a month, so I see how far China moves ahead. And I think Hong Kong has already lost the advantage of being ahead of, in certain fields, business fields, finance, and so on, towards China. And so I don't really see a specific role for Hong Kong in the future, which would guarantee it a special position within the leading Chinese cities. I think what Hong Kong now has to learn is to become part of this southern Chinese mega city between Shenzhen and Macau and Hong Kong, where I don't know how many people will live there, 50 million people. And I think Hong Kong has to become part of that. The priority of China is to stay together, to become stronger. China has never been expansive. It doesn't want to conquer the world. China, translated, means kingdom of the middle. So China doesn't look towards the outside to go and conquer Europe or Japan or anything like that, not even North Korea. China needs Tibet because, first of all, the resources Tibet has, but also when you look at the land mass, Tibet occupies about a third of China. And it's natural border towards India, so that's why China wants to keep Tibet, and Tibet will not become independent, like Hong Kong will never become independent. And I think I don't know who misguides our youth, our students, that they could believe Hong Kong should get independence. We should work towards becoming a leading, interesting society for China. That's what we should do. My kids, which are, Eurasian, they are very proud to say we are Austrian and Chinese. I even told them that my mom has a tiny little Italian blood in it, or her mother came from Italy. So you are a little bit Italian as well. We all love Austria. We have a second home in Austria. I've made a big effort during the last 25 years to offer my children every year 2-3 months in Europe. So Christmas and summer we normally spend in Austria. They have a lot of friends there, so they have equally as many friends there than they have here. And they treasure what Austria has to offer, but they also like what Hong Kong has to offer. And I think they complement each other in a very good way. I mean, Austria certainly has more culture, clean air, clean water, beautiful environment. You don't need as much money to live well in Austria. But Austria is slow. It's not very entrepreneurial friendly. Whereas here, it's very, it's completely up to you what you do with your life. It's fast, things get done quickly. You have all the possibilities you want to have. It's really up to you what you do.